Thank you for coming. First, I want to thank my law enforcement partners from Franklin County Sheriff's Office and Whitehall Division of Police for your commitment in helping CPD in our efforts to rid not only the city, but yours of reckless and dangerous behavior. 2 weeks ago, we came together to announce a new initiative, partnership to crack down on dangerous ATV and motorbike use on our streets. Our City Council also announced tougher new penalties to strengthen our ability to not only enforce, but to deter. As you will hear later in this press conference, this is not about stopping young people from having fun. We understand the excitement about being out of our homes, enjoying the city that we all love. This is about ensuring that we are all able to work, live, and play safely. To anyone engaging in this careless and foolish behavior, I want to be very clear. That was your warning. There won't be another. These vehicles are not toys, and our streets are not your playground. What you're doing is putting lives at risk, including your own. If life and safety isn't enough to convince you, know this: we will find you and we will seize your vehicle. Today we are here to announce the first wave of results from this ongoing effort. Please welcome Columbus Police Deputy Chief Jennifer Knight.
Thank you, Assistant Chief Potts. I want to thank everyone for being here today to discuss how we're addressing the safety issue that's impacting not only Columbus neighborhoods, but the neighborhoods of surrounding jurisdictions and the safety of everyone on our streets. We worked closely with the surrounding agencies last weekend to address the hundreds of complaints we've received from citizens and motorists about ATVs and dirt bikes driving recklessly in our neighborhoods and on our streets. Councilmember Mitch Brown and City Council supported these efforts by passing emergency legislation that substantially increased fines. We said we would no longer tolerate this type of lawlessness, and we made good on that promise, and I'm here to share some stats from our operation last weekend. 11 people were arrested or summoned, 11 ATVs or dirt bikes were impounded and seized, 2 stolen ATVs or dirt bikes were recovered, 5 firearms were recovered, and there were multiple misdemeanor and felony charges levied against the offenders. And that is not the end of it. Some additional highlights: a juvenile on a dirt bike fled from officers after abandoning the bike and was later apprehended. He had a loaded firearm on his person. A large group of reckless riders refused to stop for officers and later on struck an innocent motorist, causing a large injury accident that shut down West Broad. One of those riders fled from responding officers and we recovered his bike. Another was riding a stolen dirt bike. While we made several apprehensions, we also have video evidence of others that fled from police. And we are investigating these offenses and are now asking the community to help us identify these individuals that have been lawlessly putting everyone at risk on our roadways. We'll be releasing video and photos later today to the community so we can get their assistance in identifying the individuals that we plan on charging. I'm going to turn this over now to Chief Deputy Gilbert.
On behalf of Sheriff Dallas Baldwin, your Franklin County Sheriff, it's an honor to be here to discuss this effort. For the last several weeks, going into months, we have seen this criminal behavior. These ATVs and dirt bikes are operating in a very reckless manner. Our drone unit, along with the assistance of the Westerville PD drone unit, was able to capture many images and video related to this criminal behavior. Without any law enforcement even around these individuals, they're operating in a very reckless manner. So from that aspect, we're really going to need the help of the public to get some of these individuals identified. This is long from being over. This is just the beginning of our enforcement efforts. And I want to thank our suburban agencies. I know the Whitehall Division of Police, Chief Deputy is just behind me here. I want to tell you that the Franklin County Chiefs Association is very committed to assisting in this endeavor as well. Because when these motorcycles start, just like we saw on Friday night and Saturday night, they go everywhere. They are reckless in how they operate. And, to think of it for a second, 12 years old, a juvenile that's 12 years old with a loaded firearm. We took that firearm off of him Friday night, no telling what could have potentially happened with that loaded firearm and with him later on in the evening. I will tell you that we had individuals come up to us at apprehension locations thanking us, putting their window down, yelling out, thank you for doing this. So our message is pretty clear. We're going to continue to keep operating in a manner in which we are taking these ATVs and these dirt bikes that are illegally on our streets off the streets, and we look forward to moving forward so that we can make Central Ohio safer and the motoring public safer here. I'd like to now turn this over to Lieutenant Eric Babcock of the Columbus Division of Police.
Good morning. I represent the investigative portion of this investigation. We are merely support under the leadership of Chief Knight. This is primarily a patrol function. We are coming in to process the evidence as it comes in and identify suspects. Our desire is to file charges after we've identified those suspects. And as Chief Potts stated, just because these individuals got away from us the other night doesn't mean they're going to get away with it. So our desire is to follow through and hold those accountable who are violating our streets and engaging in lawlessness. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. So in Whitehall, we've been dealing with this issue just like Columbus has, the same amount of time. Essentially what happens is these bikes typically ride through Whitehall from one end to the other. So since this whole mess has started, we've dealt with it almost on a daily basis. We get them cutting through our citizens' yards. We get them cutting through businesses, vandalizing property as they're doing it. So it's been a big issue for us. We have been trying to catch them. We have caught quite a few, actually. So what we have done is we've acted in a support capacity during this operation. We typically use undercover vehicles and support the Columbus Police and the Franklin County Sheriff's Office with undercover vehicles, even though officers are still in full uniform, so that when we do approach the suspects, they know exactly that we're police officers. And what Chief Deputy Gilbert was referring to, on Friday evening, we had a guy flee from Columbus Police. They cornered him in an alley, and they fled on foot. One of our officers was nearby, full uniform. Approached the individual, grabbed him. He fought with the officer briefly, ripped his body camera off of him, took off running. Our officer, our lieutenant, was able to quickly taser him, get him under control as a gun fell out of his waistband. He was a 14-year-old kid. So we didn't know that, of course, at the time, but they're wearing hoodies. We have no idea how old they are, but essentially that was our role Friday night, and we'll continue to support this operation. Assistant Chief.
Thank you. So we're open for any questions you may have.
Deputy Chief Kelso, can I ask, especially in this situation with your lieutenant, just how dangerous that situation potentially could have been? I mean, I know you guys are out there for ATVs riding on the streets, but when it ends in a situation like that, just wondering what's going through your head.
You know, I think most people out there would agree that situation ended the absolute best it possibly could have. Had that gun come out earlier, had he been able to grab that gun during the struggle, we might have had another juvenile shot, which is the absolute last thing that any of us up here, any police officer in Franklin County wants. We're trying to end these situations before anything like that can happen. And unfortunately, as you heard Deputy Chief Knight say, we took 5 guns off of these individuals that night. And those are the ones we caught. How many other guns were out there? And what are they going to do with those guns when they do get away? So who knows how many homicides were saved by just those 5 guns. So to us, that is the absolute best thing that could have possibly happened. Yeah, it was a taser, but that's 5 seconds. Nobody was hurt. The juvenile wasn't hurt. The officers weren't hurt. So it's the best thing we could have done.
Could somebody address why this is happening now?
You want us to address why the initiative is happening now?
No, why are we seeing this problem with illegal off-road vehicles on the streets?
Well, one of the things we understand is that COVID had people cooped up in the house all year, and people are just doing things to get out of the house. And we're not discouraging our citizens to engage in legal activity. We want them to enjoy the city that we all love. However, we must do it responsibly. And when we're engaging in activity with illegal ATVs, when we're using dirt bikes, when we're rolling over people's grasses, when we're armed utilizing reckless behavior, we're sending a message here that we're not going to tolerate it. And like he said, we have 5 guns, one which was a juvenile. We understand that Columbus is seeing an increase in gun violence. And so for us, this was a win for this division. It was a win for this community, and it was a win for all our local partners who stood with us. Those are 5 guns that could have been used to do something else other than ride an ATV. And so I'm happy with the outcome, and we understand that this was a success. It's not going to end here, and we're going to continue to work collaboratively to increase the safety in not only this community, but the neighboring communities.
Do you think that they were also, a lot of this is just in some ways challenging law enforcement to say, hey, we're going to do what we're going to do, come and get us?
And we showed them that we will come and get you. And so that is the message that we're sending. We're not going to tolerate this lawless behavior. I'm committed, as well as the chiefs and the sheriffs behind me. We are committed to continuing partnerships that create safety in this community and the neighboring communities around Columbus.
Could someone clarify? We heard of a 12-year-old with a gun and a 14-year-old with a gun. Are we talking about 2 little kids, or was there a discrepancy in the age?
Yeah, we originally, when we stopped the juvenile, he identified himself as being an 11-year-old. It turns out he was 14. So there was confusion when we first made the apprehension, but he was a 14-year-old.
A 14-year-old Columbus kid?
Yes.
With a gun.
With a gun.
Chief Knight, could you just review a little bit about what you've been seeing on the streets of Columbus, not just downtown, but across the neighborhoods? Give our viewers a chance to see what your people have seen.
So thanks to the individuals that have called in some of these complaints in neighborhoods, we're seeing individuals doing donuts in the middle of a street, burnouts, high speeds in neighborhoods with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. These are areas where kids are running around. The citizens that live there, their peace has been disturbed by this. They're upset. It's very loud. We'll see complaints come in at 2 or 3 in the morning where these things are drag racing on some of our streets. That is unacceptable. So that's the kind of things that our community is seeing in their neighborhoods. But I think we've all seen the video of the lawlessness where they take over both sides of the street. They run through stoplights. They go through multiple motorists that are around them. They go into head-on traffic. They drive on the sidewalks with these things. So I think we've all seen those videos, but our citizens that live in these communities are being disturbed by this, and they're afraid their children are going to get struck.
What age range are we talking about in general here?
So right now, I think all of the ones that we arrested were adults, but we know that there's plenty of juveniles riding these things as well. We made one apprehension on a juvenile, and there's videotape that we anticipate that some of the others are juveniles as well. So we absolutely will continue to take enforcement action. This is not the end. This is the very beginning of this. And I'm letting everybody know that if you're out there riding recklessly on our streets with these vehicles, we're going to take your vehicle. We're going to arrest you and take you to jail. A lot of these riders are armed. And that's what we were finding out is half of the ones that we arrested had weapons on them. So these are things that we definitely need to address.
I'm wondering about those guns. Has CPD had a chance yet to run those guns? Do you know if they were stolen or if they've been used in other crimes? Also, I was wondering what kind of charges are these people facing?
So I'll answer the gun question first. So we ran them right away to find out if those weapons are stolen. I don't believe any of those are stolen weapons, but it takes longer to run and see if any of those are used in another crime. And we're absolutely following up on that. I think the guns that we took off the street, it matters. Every single gun that we take off the street matters. So especially the one on our 14-year-old. I know what we're all facing with juvenile violent crime right now, and that was a win for everyone to take that young man into custody safely and apprehend him and the weapon. And so it depends. We saw individuals that don't have operator's license. We charged them with the new code as well, reckless operation. We were focusing on reckless operation of these vehicles. And with the support of City Council passing that gave us something that we could specifically charge. But we had felony weapons charges, a variety of charges we intend on levying against the individuals that are still outstanding because they fled from us, and we have videotape of that. I'll just tell you right now, if you fled from the Columbus police, go ahead and turn yourself in, because we're coming to find you, we're going to charge you, and if you turn yourself in now, that's the best case scenario for you.
Could you talk about the meetup? Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Chief Deputy Gilbert. I think this is something that you've been quite passionate about for a good solid year. I mean, this is not, the ATVs haven't hit the street in the last month. It's been going on for more than a year. For you personally, your feelings about seeing arrests and seeing some of the plans come to fruition?
Yeah, back in October of last year, we took a small initiative with the Division of Police and with Whitehall Division of Police. We were successful somewhat, and then obviously starting this enforcement effort back up, I think, is very important. I can tell you that I've at least seen the news reports from all of your news media outlets of frustration from members of the public, Ring camera videos they're taking and posting about the behavior. So it's lawlessness, it's criminal behavior at best. I personally had the sheriff with me on Friday night. We were out on Friday night assisting in the operation. We'll release the video later today or tomorrow. We actually had one of these individuals strike the front end of one of our cruisers attempting to get away. And that individual was in his 30s. So it's just not juveniles that we're seeing. It's a broader spectrum. I know that out of the crash that occurred on West Broad at Davis, one of the individuals had mounted on a motorcycle. In fact, it's right over here, and you can see the wire ties off the handlebar. He had a GoPro, so they're filming this stuff. They think it's neat. They think it's neat to flee from the police, specifically when they see a single cruiser, not realizing that obviously we've got assets that we're using this operation to not get too much into the tactics, but a lot of time and effort is going into these efforts to try to bring these individuals to justice. I can tell you right now, the helicopter is a huge asset. I can't speak enough about how the Columbus Division of Police helicopter is assisting in this operation due to the fact that these individuals are operating in a very reckless manner. We're not going to operate in a reckless manner. We're going to be very smart as to how we follow up and how we take them into custody. But the Division of Police helicopter has been a huge asset in this operation and will continue to be. So yes, it's very good that we're able to talk today about our wins, so to speak, and that we'll have some future wins hopefully moving forward. But it's a huge concern because of what we've seen.
Can either you or someone else address the meetup spots? Our information is that a lot of times these guys will come together at a location and then pick a target area to operate in.
Yep, go ahead.
So a lot of work goes into something like this in advance, and that's intelligence gathering. We do know that we are seeing groups of 40 to 50 in some cases. Some of them are smaller groups coming from a neighborhood, and they're meeting up from that neighborhood and driving out. But we have seen groups of 40 to 50 who are meeting up at locations throughout the city. We know where some of those locations are. We gather intel. And our goal is to make sure that we're using that intel to identify and do some type of operation from those locations. You know, if they're just sitting on a parking lot and talking, that's not a problem. It's when they get on our roadways and they start driving recklessly and with wanton abandon. And so we're doing a lot of intelligence gathering in advance, and we're doing a lot of follow-up afterwards.
Downtown and the university, I know this is happening citywide.
Yes.
But are there any specific areas of the city where this is particularly a problem beyond High Street?
Yeah, so we see this on the west side quite a bit. And we've actually seen it everywhere, but on the west side we do see larger groups coming from the west side of Columbus, and then they go into the downtown area, but they go up and down High Street, they go to Cleveland Avenue. We have large groups going to down Livingston, over by James, that whole area, so it really is impacting the entire city.
What are they saying when you guys are arresting them? Do they seem remorseful at all? Do they tell you why they're hitting the streets instead of a safer location?
A lot of times they indicate that they didn't think we were going to come after them, or we didn't think that we were going to apprehend them. They're unsure of how we were able to do so. And a lot of this is because, just because you pull away from a cruiser and refuse to stop doesn't mean we're done. Just so you know, your best bet if you're driving one of these things is to pull over for that cruiser at that point, because we're not done enforcing the law just because you pull away from a cruiser.
Just to follow up on that, do the kids or guys, do they give an explanation for why they're out there in the first place?
I think everybody has a different explanation. We're not seeing any real consistency, and I don't think there's a good explanation for that.
DC Knight, do you want to reference the vehicles we see behind
Yes.
us and why we're at this location today?
So we're doing this here today at the impound lot because I think it's really good for you to see that some of the vehicles that we actually took off the streets. This is just a few of them back here, and we have those vehicles. We're not going to release those vehicles unless we absolutely have to. So we're really hoping that those become vehicles that we can later sell. And from the impound sale or something like that. We don't want these individuals to get those vehicles back. So we have a long line of these on the other side of this fence as well, but these are some of the vehicles we took off the street. If you look at these vehicles, some of these vehicles are not street legal. They're absolutely dangerous to even have anywhere. So they're not licensed in most cases, although some of these are. And these vehicles, in some cases, we had 2 stolen. So some of these are stolen from somebody else. So we were able to recover someone's property during this operation as well.
11 seized, did you say?
Yeah, we had 11 taken off the street and seized. I will tell you, we have a lot more individuals right now that we are seeking to identify, and we will take those as well.
What are the other ones around the corner? Are they previous?
Yeah, so some of those have been taken off the street for one reason or another. This is where we put all of the motorcycles and the ATVs and things like that. Some of those have been crashed if you take a look at them. We had that accident on West Broad Street, and the aftermath of that are some of these bikes over here.
Was anyone injured in that crash?
Yes, actually it was. There was an innocent motorist that was struck by one of these lawless ATV riders, and that individual went off the road and crashed his bike and was transported in critical condition. We were lucky we didn't have a loss of life as a result of this recklessness.
What's the plan next?
So I'm not going to tell anybody what our plans are. I will tell the individuals riding these bikes that we have resources moving forward for an extensive period of time. So you will not know when we're going to be out there. You will not see us, but we will be there. And I'm not going to tell anybody when we're there, but we're going to be there. That's a guarantee. Thank you very much.